Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the two books that I have read since the beginning of the year. We're going to talk about how my year, as far as reading, has started out on a pretty bad note, and I really hope that that's not foreshadowing the whole reading year, because these two books I'm going to talk about, I don't think I've ever viscerally hated something so much in my life. So we need to discuss. These two books need to be ranted about in detail. So there will be spoilers, I will warn you. But if you've read these books, get ready. The first book that I read this year, I actually was like, oh, I want to read a thriller or a horror. So I made my partner pick a book off of one of my horror thriller shelves, and they picked The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I was really scared to read this. I have heard very, very mixed things about him. They have two books out now, The Silent Patient and The Maidens. I believe there's only two still. And I've just heard people either love or they hate his books. So I was very scared to jump into it. But I said, you know what? He picked it. I'm honestly in the mood for kind of anything. And I was really intrigued rereading the synopsis. And I read it. I read it fast. I read it in a few days. I really wish I had done other things with my time. I'm gonna stop holding up the book and I'm just gonna put a little picture of it here because that's annoying and I don't want to hold it this whole time because this is a rant that needs to be ranted. Alright, this book... So this book follows a group therapist named Mariana Andros, and Mariana's niece, Zoe, is a student at Cambridge, and Zoe hits her up and is like, hey, yo, there's been a murder at my school and I need you. So she goes, and she is like so adamant that it is one of these professors who teaches Greek tragedies, Edward Fosca, because he has this cliquey group called the Maidens, and it's just very... There's a lot of like suspicion around it. People are kind of like, she's a little weirded out by it because it's just him and a bunch of like college girls, and it's like they meet after hours and weird stuff. And so it's basically the whole book she's just trying to, you know, find out who the hell murdered this girl. And she is so adamant that it is this dude, Edward Fosca. She's like, it is Edward, I'm gonna prove it. So that's what the book's about. Was it good? Was it good? I think this was a horrible book. I literally chucked this book. It's dented in the corners and I'm just like, honestly, I should have ripped the pages out and burned it. That's how bad it was. I was fuming. I went on a whole rant and I was ranting to my boyfriend, my mom, anyone that would listen. I was like, y'all listen to this. Okay, I was texting friends that don't even read. I was like, I just read the worst book of my whole life. It was a 1 star for me. I finished it and I said, why? Why did I just waste my time with that? I was so intrigued by like the whole mystery element, and like there was all this Greek stuff that was brought up, like mythology, and the whole Maidens was really interesting. First off, alright, for people that aren't gonna watch the spoiler reviews of this, let me just tell you, she boo-hoos too much. Every freaking page. Every page. It's like, honey, you don't need to sit there and rub it in our face that she's troubled. We get it. It drove me crazy. And that was before I even made my opinion that I hated the book. Because I didn't really hate the book until the very end when it all went together and I said, what? Just from the beginning, I was like, she needs to quit complaining. My other problem, there were people in the book that were brought up and I felt like they had no point to the plot. Y'all, I literally had to pull out my little book journal because, you know, I know that I hate the book and I remember a lot of the things why, but I want to make sure that I'm really telling you why I didn't like this book, because the other book I'm going to talk about also did not like, and that one is more freshly on my mind, so I need to refresh the hatred in my heart for this book. So here, I said it was very poorly written. I don't think I like his writing. It really makes me want to get rid of his other book before I've even read it, but I think I'm gonna try it. It's not gonna be anytime soon because I'm mad still, okay? I am fuming. I don't even want to talk about the book, but I think it was poorly written. Maybe it's just his writing style wasn't for me because I know some people like it, but I was not a fan at all. I thought the book was extremely predictable, and it honestly just made no sense. Like, the whole reveal and who did it, I was just like, what? It just made no sense. I was like, are you kidding me? I just wasted however many pages. Let's see. It was 333 pages of my life and like 3 or 4 days of my life, and you're telling me that's it? Yeah, no. Wasn't impressed. Okay guys, we're gonna go ahead and start the spoilers because I'm reading the rest of my little review and I name dropped some people, so we're gonna start with the spoilers. Skip ahead to, I don't know, I'll put the timestamp up here somewhere if you don't want to hear the spoilers for the rest of this book. So you know how I said that like most of the characters were freaking pointless? I'm trying so hard not to F-bomb it everywhere right now, but I'm serious. Okay, so we had Henry, who was like her troubled dude that was in her group therapy, like, and he was stalking her. He had no purpose for the murder at Cambridge. Like, why, other than him being like a stalker, and maybe it put some suspicion in your head. Honestly, I felt like it was so predictable on who did it. I'll get there in a minute, but I was like, there's no way. Like, I don't understand why he was even in it. It was so stupid. It gave a little bit of a creep factor of like, ooh, who's following her? Maybe it's Henry. Come on though, it was not good. And then Julian, the other, I think he was the other psychiatrist or the whatever, and they met a couple times. What was the point of him really? Like, he was just kind of an asshole. Like, I don't understand the point of them. Also, who the hell is gonna let this random group therapist girl from London, well, I don't know if she was from London, I don't really remember, I don't care either, but who's gonna let some random person, I'm trying so hard right now, who's gonna let this random person walk on the crime scene and be touching shit? No one. No one. That is not legally okay. No one's gonna let you do that. She would have gotten reprimanded so bad for doing that, and you're just gonna let her on the stage because she's an old college buddy? I think not. I think not. Also, the character Fred, her like love interest, what the actual hell was that? He had no point other than to be the fall guy at the very end to like help save her or whatever. I don't even know. It was just so bad. And then like all of a sudden they're together, but they're not together at the end. I don't know, guys. I'm really sucking at explaining why I hate this book, but it was just, it made no sense. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to you because it made no sense to me at all. I didn't understand any of these characters. It was so stupid. Yeah, I wrote right here, why was there even love mentioned when they barely even shared page time? They had like 2 freaking conversations in the whole book and you're gonna say they're in love at the end? What was even the time scale of this? A couple days, weeks? I have no idea, but you're gonna say that they're suddenly madly in love when you were just talking in the beginning in the first half of the book about how she's boohooing that Sebastian, her husband's still dead, and then you're gonna say she's fallen for this dude Fred? What? Guys, what? It literally doesn't make sense to me. And I know I keep saying that and I sound really redundant right now, but it genuinely irks me so bad. Honestly, I felt like knowing Zoe was the one who murdered him was really obvious. When you think about it, who else did Mariana have any kind of history with or any connection with in the entire book? No one. And normally these kind of thriller books, it's someone that you wouldn't suspect, someone that's close to them. So obviously it was going to be your own freaking niece. Like, that was so obvious to me. And how did Morris and Fosca even have anything to do with the murder? Like, I'm still so confused on that aspect. Like, there was just so much random little plot lines, and it sucks so bad because the premise of this book was so interesting. Like, I really was vibing with the whole, like, vibe of it, I guess, at the beginning, and then he really just messed that up. He messed it up bad. I, went through a deep dive on Goodreads, reading a bunch of reviews on why people hated it, why people loved it. I needed to know why people liked this book, and then I needed to feel validated in hating it. And I saw a lot of the same things. It made no sense. The murder was obvious. The writing was poor. She boohooed too much. It was really disrespectful to psychology. Like, I'm not a psychologist, but I mean, the fact that she had no ethics and no boundaries, I don't know, that really bothered me personally. I was like, ooh, I would not want her as a therapist. To wrap it up, the book was just awful. I did not like it at all. Clearly, I've been ranting about it now for a hot minute and probably sound really redundant in saying that I don't like it. I gave it a 1 star. I feel like it was one of the worst books I have read ever. And I'm very scared to read his other book, if I even will. The one thing I did like about it was the little Greek mythology tie-ins, and I did like the fact that there is kind of an Easter egg to hit the silent patient. That's really it, but 0 out of 10 recommend. Alright, you guys, the next book is probably one of the most anticipated books of 2025 for a lot of people, and that's Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is book 3 in the Empyrean series, book 1 being Fourth Wing, book 2 Iron Flame. You're telling me that we waited however long, like if you immediately read Iron Flame, you've been waiting over a year for this, right? I waited, I don't know how many months, 6 months, a little over, I don't know. But you're telling me we waited for this book, and that's what you put out? Now I understand editing industry is really crazy, they're probably crunching, but you can tell that the book was rushed. You can tell it was rushed. I really don't know how to not spoil this book. I'll just say a few points. The pacing, awful. One of the worst paced books I've read. Honestly, it was like so slow. I wanted to read it all in one day, but I got halfway through on release day and I was so bored. I was so bored. I was like, are you kidding? And then we ended up getting snow, I think. They canceled school the next day, so I was like, bet, like I'm just going to finish it tomorrow. Went to bed, woke up the next morning, I was so bored still, and then it finally picked up a little bit, but the pacing was awful. It was like slow, fast, slow, fast. The first entire half, boring as hell, alright, boring. I said, what's the point? And some people said that about Iron Flame, but I actually liked Iron Flame. Iron Flame had a plot. It had a purpose. Onyx Storm, what was the plot? It's like we went from point A, B, C, D, all the way through the freaking alphabet, get to Z, and then they're like, oh, just kidding, back to A. What even happened in this book? Another complaint. There were so many characters brought up in the first half of the book, and she just expected us to know them. Expected us to know them. I said, who the hell is this? And I'm not the only one that said that. Look, I let my grandma borrow a lot of my books. She loves reading, and she just reads for fun. She'll tell you every time I'm like, Grandma, what'd you think? She goes, it was good. That's all she ever says to me. This is the first book that she said, I don't know about that. Alright? She knew. She never says anything negative about a book. And what she said wasn't really negative. She just goes, there were just so many characters. I was just so confused. And again, not spoiling, but the end. Everyone's probably seen this online now. I had to reread the ending like 5 times, and I still was like, huh? My grandma said she did the same exact thing. My cousin said she did the same thing. Multiple people online have said they've done the same thing. What the hell was that ending? I was so upset. I was so upset. And one more non-spoilerly thing I have to say. Rebecca Yarros said, we are going to find out Violet's second signet in this book. I was so disappointed, y'all. I was so disappointed. You know, that's like the there were 2 things the end of Iron Flame that everyone wanted to know, right? Everyone needed to know. They were like, oh my god, Onyx Storm's gonna answer those. It was so lackluster. I think I cried a little inside. It was not good. Now, for the spoilers of this book, I will again put a little timestamp on where you can skip. Can we be real frank here? I felt like their romance, Xaden and Violet, it was like they cared more about the fact that they couldn't have sex than they did about the entire world falling into Venom hands. It was like every page, I want you so much, oh my gosh, and then he'd be like, no, but you can't have me. And then like the next page, it'd be like, oh, but I want you so bad. It went like that the entire book. And I said, y'all really just worried that you can't bang. That's really what it is. I said, you don't even care that like everyone could die. All your dragons could die. You're just upset that you can't bone. What? I don't know. Like, I'm not the biggest romance person ever. I like a little bit of romance here and there, but it was just so annoying. I was like, dude, we get it. We freaking get it, dude. I was like, oh my god. Okay, and I understand the island hopping, right? We're going to explore off the continent to try to find Andarna's kind. That made sense. So then why did we start getting to these islands and then all of a sudden it became like we're trying to find political allies and safe havens, and it's just like that wasn't even part of the plot. I feel like she randomly threw that in. Like, you were originally just going to find the dragons, you were pit stopping at these little islands to find out if anyone knew anything, and then all of a sudden you're trying to recruit an army? Like, yeah, obviously it makes sense that you would need more people to fight the army, but it doesn't make sense because you didn't have any mention of that before you set out on this long journey. Now, I did like Quest Squad. That was funny, alright? The boys, Riddick, Dane, Sawyer, loved it, okay? They cracked me up. Actually, that was probably the best part of this book, was those freaking characters. Also, what the hell was that last island where they were like, let me give you gifts? What? What purpose did that have other than to just kill off a character that everyone likes? And honestly, I can't even remember who the hell died. Another thing I did appreciate was when they did finally find Andarna's kind and we got to learn more about the Empyrean. I loved that. I thought it was really shitty that the dragons were just like, you ain't good enough to be one of us. Like, damn, that was my poor little dragon girl. She's probably so hurt. Then there's the whole part with Xaden's mom. I think that she just threw that in there to make us feel sympathetic for him, and I don't understand what it had to do with the plot. I felt like, I don't know, and people are probably like, oh, but this and that, and I understand where people that like the book are coming from, but this book made me so mad. What the hell was the point of any of it? Literally any of it. It made no sense, okay? So the two things we were gonna find out from the end of Iron Flame were, does Xaden get healed, or what happens to that whole thing, and what is Violet's second signet? Her second signet was so lackluster. It was like the last 2 pages of a chapter. They bomb dropped it and we're like, oh yeah, she has like, she can dream walk. And you know, Yaros in her book tour interviews has been saying she's like peeped her second signet in the other book. How? When? I thought it was so lackluster. I said, are you kidding me? And then the fact that they name dropped that and then didn't mention it the entire rest of the book. I'm serious. Did not mention the fact that she could dream walk or anything the entire rest of the book. So then why? What? I was just so shook. Andarna leaving her shattered my heart, okay? Not gonna lie, sobbed like a little baby, and I said, oh my god, why? Like, I get it, but why? But then the ending, when she comes back all of a sudden, was that like in her head or what? Because I'm so confused. I am literally so confused on why Andarna came back. And it was like 5 seconds and then it was over. And even my grandma mentioned this, alright y'all? The last like couple chapters when we get Rhys and Imogen's viewpoints, I don't care. I don't care. I love them as characters, but I don't want their viewpoints. I don't care. Why did you do that? You haven't done that the entire series and now all of a sudden you're gonna do that for 2 chapters? Even my grandma was like, what the heck was that? What was that? And the whole ending? What? She's married, just wakes up 12 hours later and is like, what the heck? Oh no. Like, I get it. Like, Imogen wiped her memory, whatever, but for why? What happened? And Theophany, or I can't even say her name. Theosephany, whatever her name is, the Venom chick. Why would she just pop in every 5 chapters and be like, hey, you're mine, I'm gonna get you one day, and then leave? Like, she had so many opportunities where she could have outpowered Violet and taken her. So why are you just peeping in every 5-10 chapters? It was so annoying. This book was so poorly written. It was so all over the place. Oh my god. It was really bad. Okay, like this, I gave this book a 2-star. It was better than The Maidens, but it was so disappointing, and maybe that's why I rated it a little lower. But also, I couldn't get over the fact that the entire book didn't make sense. There's tons of theories. Honestly, the theories that I was seeing on TikTok before this book came out were more interesting than what she wrote. I said that. They really were. I said, oh dang, oh my god, this is how it's gonna be. No. No, this was the worst shit ever. I said, are you kidding me? You can tell it's a filler book. I think it's supposed to be a 5-book series, and you can tell this is the middle book. I said, girl, I would rather you take 5 years to write this damn book than put out what you just put out. So please pray that she puts out the next one and it's like not rushed, because you could tell this one's rushed. I wish that I could clear my brain of ever reading both of these books. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to me rant about these 2 books that I have finished this year. This one, 1 star. I would 0% recommend it at all. If you enjoyed that book, maybe don't tell me, or maybe tell me why you liked it. If you didn't like that book, please tell me why you didn't like it and make me feel validated, because I felt like a mad woman after reading that book. This book, it was a sin to have such a beautiful book and then it be so disappointing. But if you haven't read this series, maybe check it out. Dragons, fun time. Book 3, not a fun time, but I have hope that she'll finish off the series in a good way. Let's pray. Let's all pray to Rebecca Yarros that she can write something good after this giant mistake of a book. 2 stars. I recommend only because I have hope the rest will be better. But I hope you all stay safe and have a great rest of your day.